I wanted to, the first, well, I don't know where to put this. I mean, Finnegans Wake is a book that means a huge amount to me. I mean, I read it. I want to show you this, actually, because when I was 22, because I thought that Finnegans Wake was the book. And this is the copy I had. Inside is an Isle of Wight bookmark. Never been to the Isle of Wight, but my mother gave it to me. And on the back of it, I've got the line markings, the 36 lines of it. I used to read a page every day with this Ronald McHugh's commentary. And I read the whole thing. It took a long time. And then I read it again fast. And, I guess it seems to me that the sound dance that is this book is beautifully rendered by what you do in this performance. Is extraordinarily powerful, and I want to get onto that, which is, I guess the first question is really, crudely, is what is the truth of Joyce, and given that you say this line, he makes all sorts of things up. He can make anything up. He's a liar. But there's a truth here, and you've taken the most difficult work by Joyce, maybe the most difficult book in this language or in any language that I'm aware of, and rendered it incredibly powerfully. And you took the last page. I want to go to that, and then the voice of the river of life, the Liffey that runs through that. You personify the river, you become the river, you move as the river, and that takes us then from the end of the book back through the sources that you're channeling, and it's just. And also, I think just to say this, because I want to say this, it's the end of Finnegans Wake, which you end with this. It ends with the word the, just like Ulysses ended with the word yes, and the sort of lyric, the elegiac quality at the end of the. People think of Finnegans Wake as this extraordinary sort of linguistic masterpiece, this impenetrable book, but you get the sense of the lyricism and the elegiac quality and the kind of the sort of longing that's there at the end. Mm-hmm. It's incredibly sad, incredibly moving. But what drew you to this most difficult of books?
The last line really drew me first. I loved the whole idea of a book ending on the, even though technically you go back to the beginning and it says riverrun and you carry on, mm-hmm. But I loved keep going, but I loved I love that last line, and it's like a birth and a death both at once, and it's full of promise and expectation, mm-hmm. and a sense of what's to come. Possibly nothing, but you really feel there is something to come afterwards. So that last line really drew me. But the way I got involved with Finnegans Wake, and I've never read the whole thing. I don't know if I ever will. So I should, but
I don't know.
I've never read the whole thing. I've always dipped into it at random, and for quite a long time since I came across it. And I loved the language, I loved the form of it, and I loved the fact that it seemed so encoded and playful, yet a sort of authenticity underneath it, a real authentic energy underneath it. So over the years, I had played with the idea of, this is fantastic material for performance, just excerpts, bits. Mm-hmm. And then, but I didn't want to deal with Stephen Joyce, so I didn't do anything about it.
Yeah. The Joyce estate.
Yeah, and then, so I put it at the back of my mind, and then about 3 years ago, just about 6 months before Joyce went out of copyright in Europe, I was asked to do a reading for Bloomsday in Sydney, Australia, and I think that's in your program note. I can't remember whether it's in it or not. But I said, okay, well, I'll read Molly Bloom. I love Molly Bloom, but she's kind of done so often now. It's become kind of, mm-hmm. She's sort of worn out, I think. Mm-hmm. And I said, okay, well, I'll read Ulysses or Molly Bloom if you let me read a bit of Finnegans Wake for Bloomsday. And they said, oh, yeah, that's a great idea. And I chose to read that last page. And that's when the classic, it was the real light bulb moment. People talk about inspiration. It never really happens the way people talk about it, but it really did in this case. Yeah. It was like a tongue of fire descending as I was doing it. And I went, oh my God, this is extraordinary. And this is the way to access it for performance, is through the voice of the river. So, and I loved the idea of not not playing a character, to actually play an element, a watery element like
Yes.
that, because I get a bit tired of, I get a bit irritated with, narrative and character and all of those things that seem to dominate some theatre, not all. So I love the idea of performing with this kind of energy, and that energy of river life, all the rivers of the world.
Yeah.
So that's what attracted me, and I was going to then just do the last 10 pages from Soft Morning City onwards.
Yes, yes.
But it was so beautiful and so lyrical that I said, "Oh no, I need the difficulty. I wanted the difficulty of the book. I wanted to take on that challenge, and also I felt there was something to come before it. In a way, she's born at the end, or she's returning at the end somehow, from Soft Morning City onwards. So I then worked my way backwards until I got to the beginning of book 4, and I thought that's the perfect beginning. The 3 Sanskrit words which describe basically the join between all things, the interplace. And I thought that was the perfect beginning. And I always imagine it as being the first light of dawn, just sort of coming up under the horizon, and the river just coming up through the rock.
Yes.
So that's how I imagine it. And it's the beginning of existence also, like the book.
Riverrun past Eben Adams.
Yeah.
From Bend of Bay to Swerve of Shore.
So that's what attracted me, and then I went on from there. I followed the river basically.
Right, and so you are the river, and you are that life. And then, but language, and there's this. I found this when I was doing my research, and because people can say, "What does this mean?" What have we been listening to? And you say, "I've always been interested in communicating through a means which is not the normal means of communication." Not looking for meaning through words, but through an exchange of energy, the energy of communication, which is beyond language so much of the time. I feel the language we use daily closes down so much of our reality.
Did I say? Yeah. I said that, did I?
I believe you said that.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah. No, it's vaguely familiar. Yeah.
I believe you said that. Yeah.
Yeah. No, but
it's this energy of communication. It's this, and it's so in a sense that what does this mean? Question. That's not the point, right?
No, not for me. I mean, I think there's something very powerful being communicated, and something quite elemental and authentic, as truthful. But I guess I'm kind of influenced as well by having been brought up with bilingual, and apparently a lot of bilingual children experience a sort of linguistic identity crisis. But I think I did when I was very small, and I really felt that. When I spoke in English, it was one thing, but it wasn't really true. And when I spoke in French, it was another thing, but wasn't really true. And the place in between, in fact, the kind of place of silence where there was a lot going on, was the true place. So I think it sort of gives voice to that silence, that pre-language or the pre-fixed language energy that is contained in all of us.
Yeah.
The energy of life, really.
Which works through a kind of association, through a polysemy, through every word in this book, as it were, suggests other words.
Exactly.
And suggests previous words in the book, and the whole thing becomes this kind of phonetic, extraordinary orchestration. And I wanted to, anyway, look, it's to try and, in my research, this is a way of asking a question, but it's there's a story that you tell when you were playing Artaud. Mm-hmm. You were playing Artaud in Here Lies.
Yeah.
And Artaud was a man, a peculiar and intense man with an idea of theatre which was about life and about capturing that vibrancy of life. And the theatre of cruelty was attempt to sort of make that resound. And you performed as Artaud, and you were saying there's this story, or it's on an interview that I saw, I forget where you hold everybody's attention in the audience, you look at everybody.
Yes.
Individually, which I also felt this evening. There's a kind of, is she looking at me? And you find there's a 12-year-old boy who looks at you as if to say, what are you?
That's
so
right.
What are you?
What am I? Well, that's a big question. What
yeah,
am I?
yeah. Because I think, and you said that question, "What are you?" made the whole thing worthwhile.
It was just the way he changed. It was the transformation in his eyes that made it extraordinary. Because I'll explain a little bit. It was a live installation. So I was in a hotel room, not the actual hotel room where Artaud had stayed in Galway, but the same hotel where he had stayed in Galway for 2 weeks before he was finally deported from Ireland as a destitute and undesirable alien. Mm-hmm. And it was the last journey he ever made. It was quite an extraordinary journey he made. But anyway, I was performing this piece in the hotel room and constructed a kind of glass box in which I kind of went through a series of actions. The audience were let in, only about 10 people every 10 minutes. They could only stay for 10 minutes, then they had to leave, they could come back again. So I would perform this series of actions and they'd be listening to actually an extract of a letter that he wrote on the headsets. And it was, and so anyway, when the audience come in first, they don't really see me and I'm lying in the bed. And this group of French people came in, they didn't know anything about the piece or anything, and a few kids, and they were making all sorts of noises and taking the piss out of me and everything like that. And then when it came to that moment, it was this utter transformation in his eyes. He became so silent and so transfixed, kind of fearful but fascinated at the same time. And I thought, well, that's, if anything, that expresses the active transformation of a piece of theatre where he actually, it's something that happened between us.
Well, so that's what I get to, which is you talk about, again, in one of the things I was reading and looking at, of a theatre of disturbance, mm-hmm. A theatre of disturbance, and there's a fantastic quote I've got somewhere here, which, a theatre of disturbance, which is also the theatre that interests me is the theatre of disturbance, where people feel a little bit altered afterwards, a little bit uneasy, but they can't get it out of their minds. Then I feel I've done my job. And I guess the general question I've got here, we'll get back to Joyce, but the general question I've got about theatre, and we're in this context where this is a Hellenic program. That machine that is theatre, right? That weird machine that is theatre, and you played in Medea, Antigone, you've got this long history. It seems to me that the same question I'd say about Antigone. What is she? What is that? What is that at that point? And is that a man or a woman? Is that day or night? Is that life or death? What is that? And it seems that theatre is that machine the Greeks invent to create that kind of disturbance. Would you agree with that?
I would totally agree with that, yeah.
Right.
I think it's removing all of those definitions and those boundaries that we place on things to feel safer, I suppose, and to get on with our daily lives. Mm. But to go back to the what are you, that's what it really appealed to me about the boy as well, because I felt he didn't know whether I was a woman or a man. He actually said, oh, he's really small, when he saw me. And so he thought I was a man, but then he kind of knew I wasn't, and he didn't know what I was. So I find that a really interesting place of transaction in the theatre, where and that's what attracts me to this piece as well, because you have to kind of let go of your need we have to let go of our need for narrative and story and meaning as we know it in order to receive it as an experience. And well, that's it really. and
theatre, but that means that, the idea of theatre as a reflection of reality, the idea of sort of naturalistic ideas of theatre, all of that falls away at that point.
It's allowed to be.
We're not ruling it out.
Yeah, it's another form of theatre, but I'm more interested in the one that you go home and you go, oh, I don't know what that was, but I can't get it out of my mind.
Mm-hmm. It seems to be in relationship to, say, just think of Greek theatre. That I'm very interested in Greek tragedy, and there are ways of understanding Greek tragedy. But it seems that there's whatever that machine called theatre is that was invented in the 5th century produces these characters, these extraordinary forces: Antigone, Cassandra, Medea, Hecuba. The list goes. Who, in a sense, are. It's not clear what they are, right? And this fiction, this extraordinary kind of device, is able to create a kind of disturbance in you, which calls you to order. Right? It calls things to account. I want to link that to another thing that you said when I was fishing around about the function of art. I mean, very generally, the function of art, which is linked to an idea of extremity. And again, we could link that to Artaud's work, to what Joyce is doing here. And you say, I think I'm attracted to extremity of experience, extremes of everything. And I love that, of course, when I come across it in art. So this is an art of extremity.
What are you going to ask me?
I was going to say, I don't know, just to sort of riff on that a bit.
I have said that, and I think that's true. I mean, I guess it's again about shaking it all up a bit, and the subversive energy that we carry around with us and we often don't utilize, so I think extremes of experience also kind of remind us of the many facets of our existence that we don't really half the time realize are there. I really often feel we only live on such a tiny fraction of what we've been of the instrument we've been given.
Right.
So a lot of it is about that. Is about. And I often have this, when you talk about yearning, I often have this feeling that we are all still longing for that thing. The human is longing for that thing that he might have known, she might have known once, or we might have known at one time, or may know in the future.
Well, this is what I go
experience in the future.
To go back to the text a bit, which is Finnegans Wake, right? And we could play on that Finn, the Finns again awake. I mean, Joyce thought that the Finnish Civil War had started to prevent the success of Finnegans Wake. The Finns had awoken again, and all of that, and every kind of moment in the book is playing with that again. But awake, and wake as wake, a funeral. Wake as the wake of a river, the boat, but wake as awake, and to wake up.
Wake up.
And in a sense, that what you're doing in the sound dance and what Joyce is doing is a kind of wake-up call. This is a wake-up call. And that sense of the wake I want to focus on. But also, this is to push you a little bit further in my fishing around. Okay, you say about Joyce, let's wake up. But it's also wake up the body politic, wake up all these possibilities, and waking up to, yes, that happened, and yes, that was shite. And I was really beginning to feel that was also a revolutionary piece, because it's inciting always, and there's many, many references to Ireland's previous dominion, anti-colonial things. There's also, this isn't just an aesthetic or theatrical, there's a political dimension to this.
Yeah, I think
and this
so.
is another way of awaking.
Yeah. I think so, very much so. I mean, I was very aware when I was doing this show yesterday that a few people were trying to see what the results of the Scottish vote was. And so there was a couple of moments where I really gave it everything.
Scots are going to wake.
Yeah. But I think it's very much this piece. But I think I every bit of the book that I dip into, I can feel it. And right to the point of Joyce saying he was trying to destroy the English language,
right.
All of those things. But in terms of the river and Olivia Pluribel and the last section of this, Soft Morning City onwards, I always think of it as though it's Kathleen Ni Houlihan, the female embodiment of Ireland, coming back after nearly 100 years, saying, what the hell happened? You know,
Right.
that she's kind of coming back and looking at the fact that, you know, we're supposed to be free now, but we're not.
Right. I mean, and Joyce's views on, his Irishness is complicated.
Yeah, very.
You say somewhere that, Ireland's in my bones but not in my blood.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you're divided. Joyce was deeply divided. And in a sense, Ulysses is a book about the impossibility of home rule. And Joyce knew that. Leopold Bloom's home is not ruled. Stephen Dedalus's home is not ruled. And the whole thing is unruled. There's a kind of a complexity to Joyce's relation to Ireland.
Yeah.
I wonder what he'd make of it now. Lord knows.
Yeah.
We got to finish. Okay. But thank you, Olwen.
Thank you, Simon.